Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Ethan7878. Today's video will be a little bit different. As you might have noticed, the length is quite a bit longer than my normal video length. And you might have also noticed that things look a little different here. And that's because today I'm going to be actually showing you two replays, and because they were played in a previous patch and my game updated before I could record them, I found someone else on one of my Discord servers who kindly accepted to record them for me. And then he just sent me the final footage. So as you can see, he has a few modifications to the team list running and some other counters running. But that's no big deal. In fact, I think I even prefer it that way, because it's just more information available to you. Anyway, the map here is Neighbors, and I'm in my Kutuzov. The game tier is tier 8, so it'll be tier 8 to tier 6 ships. Although, we do have on the enemy team a Furataka in a division with a Fuso, and the Furataka is tier 5. I wouldn't want to be him. But then again, I just won't fail division. Now, as you can see, we have a lot of targets in range, and that's because the Kutuzov has the amazing range of 19.1 kilometers. And the Kutuzov is a premium Soviet tier 8 cruiser. And it comes with a smokescreen. So now that everything is in range, and will be in range for the next little bit, I decide to pop my smokescreen and just start opening up with the high explosive. So the Kutuzov has 12 6-inch guns, and you can fire the armor piercing or the high explosive, and both types of ammunition are very good. And as you can see, I just did 6,000 damage to the Tirpitz in one salvo. And that's because I'm running IFHE, Inertial Fuse High Explosive. And what that does is it gives your high explosive a bit more penetration in exchange for a lower fire chance and for captain points. So it's a very expensive tool, or very expensive commander skill. However, it can be very worthwhile in some situations. Typically, for 6-inch guns, it's really something that you want to be taking because your high explosive is able to penetrate so much more armor that it wouldn't be able to otherwise. For example, 32mm plating, which is what makes up the bows of most ships at these high tiers. Now, I set a few fires on some of those ships, and the Fuso repaired my first fire, so my second fire will burn for a little while longer. And I turned my guns to deal with this Bismarck over in the B capture point. I also set a fire on the Nagato. I'm not quite sure what he's going to do about that one. I didn't really pay attention. But anyway, the Bismarck is capturing B, and he's in the process, B is our only capture point at this stage in the game. The enemy has C completely controlled. They have A, although we're contesting it. And now we aren't gaining any points because the Bismarck is in B. Now my smokescreen does run out, so I get moving. You don't want to be caught out in the open, broadside on, completely stationary, in Kutuzov especially. And I'm just farming defense points and a bit of damage on the Bismarck as well, and he will go down very soon. You can also see that I'm running defensive AA, as well as, well, I'm running all consumables premium because it's a premium ship, but I'm running defensive AA instead of hydroacoustic. Hydroacoustic is very good, as I burned down the Bismarck for the first kill, first blood. The AA on the Kutuzov is very good even without defensive AA, so that's why hydroacoustic search or sonar is also perfectly viable. It was just fortunate that there were carriers in this match, otherwise it might have gone to waste. Bit of a lag spike here, not quite sure what's going on there. But as you can see, I'm in another target-rich environment, so I pop my smokescreen and start opening up. Now this Furataka really should have been staying at range. Not quite sure what he hoped to accomplish by sailing straight into the hands of the enemy fleet. But that's fine, I'm going to take advantage of that and farm a bit of damage on him. And I'm landing quite a few hits. The guns on this ship are very accurate. I set a fire on him, and then I decide, nope, the Furataka has very little health to farm. Let's go burn down some battleships. Because, as you may already know, fire damage is calculated as a percentage of the target ship's full health pool. So, a fire on the Furitaka will give me less damage per second than a fire on a battleship, like a Nagato or a Tirpitz, for example. Now I'm trying to get some shots off on this Tirpitz here before he gets behind the island, and I set a fire, which he immediately puts out. Unfortunately for me, I won't be getting very much damage on him. And now that he's behind cover, it's no use trying to keep firing on him. And that's partly because the shell, or the shell velocity on the Kutuzov is really, really quick. So you won't be firing like a Cleveland where you can lob shells over islands. Instead, you need to use your smokescreen to the full advantage, because islands are, well, they're not really your ally in this. Now our team has lost 2 ships and the enemy team has only lost 1, that Bismarck that I burned down. And the enemy team now has complete control of A and C, and they have 2 destroyers taking B. And as you can see, I left my smokescreen there because I didn't want to be caught flat-footed in front of all these ships that are moving east. I set a fire on the Tirpitz because he did already repair that. He has already used his repair. And I continue firing my explosive. I could be using armor piercing at this point, even at medium ranges. The high explosive, or the armor piercing, is very good because of the shell velocity. As you can see, I set a second fire on him, and that's going to burn for its complete duration because the Tirpitz doesn't have his repair available. Now I see 5 shells at a time coming out from the B capture point from the smoke screen. That tells me there's a Farragut. However, he's in smoke and I can't see him, so I decided to shoot at the Lexington instead. Now I underestimated the Lexington's speed at first, so I only land 1 shell on the first volley. However, the second volley, and looking at that dispersion, you can already tell the second volley is going to be a lot better. And there we go, 8,000 damage and a fire. I continue firing on him, because if you can get rid of a carrier, it's great for your team. I mean, even though Kutuzov has great AA, I can't be everywhere at once. So it's better to kill the enemy carrier and kill the planes completely than just try and use your AA to defend yourself. Now the Lexington is being smart about this. He's not instantly repairing his fire, as a lot of his battleships are doing. Instead, he's waiting it out, trying to get behind some cover, and hoping that he has enough health left to pull this off. And I think I've saturated most of his hull at this point. As you can see, 6 shell hits, and I only did 1,500 damage, 7 hits, I only did 2,000. So the damage on this guy is really starting to drop. My fire is still burning though, and as you can see, I'm about to cross 160,000 damage. And the fire finally goes out. I'm pretty sure that was on its own. But I'm still hanging back. You don't want to be pushing in too aggressively in the Kutuzov. Your armor is not great. You're better suited staying at long range and burning down enemy battleships from long range. Now this Fuso ate 2 torpedoes, so I assume that he uses repair. And I start shooting at him. Because of course you want to shoot at targets that don't have their repairer up, because that means your fires will stick for longer. And I do set a fire on the Fuso, and he immediately puts it out, which means I'm going to have to shoot at him for a little while longer if I want to get another fire on him. If you're looking at the minimap though, you'll notice that the enemy Lexington just popped up again. And I decide to switch the guns over from the Fuso to the Lexington. And I get a few more salvos off at him, and then it's time to rush down this carrier. And I think the carrier sees me at this point and hits full reverse and tries to get back into cover. And I make down to a mistake here. I switch to armor piercing, even though high explosive would have been very, very good in this situation. I mean, it doesn't land me a nice hit, 4,000 damage, but at this point he's back behind the island. There's nothing I can do. Might have been a better idea to set a fire and see if that would burn down for a bit longer. I switch back to the Fuso, but the friendly North Carolina is able to finish him off before I can get some damage in. And, well, we've managed to equalize the scores a little bit. We've only lost 3 ships. The enemy team is now down 6, including their carrier, thanks to the Ognivoy that you see right there. However, the enemy team is about to take all 3 caps, and they're up on points. And it's no use having more ships if you can't put them to use. Most importantly, the enemy team still has their 3 destroyers, whereas we only started off with 2, and we've lost 1, so now we're just down to 1. Speaking of destroyers, however, out pops an Akatsuki, and at close ranges, a destroyer is completely helpless against a Kutuzov. Again, because your shell velocity is so great that you barely even have to lead, you just point and shoot, and you'll do lots of damage, as this Akatsuki finds out the hard way. 12 guns firing out every 8 seconds, he doesn't last very long at all, and there he goes. And that's only my 2nd kill after 182,000 damage. Now the Farragut up front is going to be a little bit of a nuisance. He's happy to just park there. You'll see me switching back and forth between my torpedoes and my guns, using the lead indicator to see which way he's going. And, oh, it looks like the Akatsuki did manage to get off some torpedoes. And the Ognivoy is looking like he's going to take one. But he pops his speed boost and he's safe. Good, well done on his part. And finally, here's a Farragut. I accidentally do a little bit of damage to the Ognivoy there. And the Ognivoy finishes off the Farragut. But this might have been a mistake because look at all those torpedoes. And I got away with it. I only need 2 torpedoes. And the Farragut is now out. We're taking C thanks to the Tirpitz. And we're taking B thanks to the Arizona there. And I decide to pop my last smoke screen in preparation for this Edinburgh. Now the Edinburgh, of course, British cruiser, it gets a smoke screen, but it also gets very, very thin armor. And as you can see, I'm switching to the armor piercing at this point. Even though I set a fire and I'd like to set another fire, the armor piercing in this case is just going to be so much more powerful. And 3 citadels, 13,000 damage. He's in trouble at this point and he knows it, so he's slowing down and popping a smoke screen. And I don't get lucky with any more citadels. And it looks like he's going to survive for now. I could keep firing blind into the smoke. However, I did see Nagato off in the minimap off in the distance. And looking at the team lists, he is on low health. I'd like to definitely finish him off. And at this point I've crossed 200,000 damage. I'm in fact at a nice even 210,000. But I want to keep bringing that up. There's not very much enemy health left to be brought down. And in fact the Nagato was healing there for a bit. And at this point my friendly carrier's planes are spotting him. I set a fire which he immediately repairs. And there's nothing really he can do. He's too slow to sail out of my range. The planes are keeping him permanently spotted. He's just going to have to sit there and get shot to death. He fires blind. I'm not sure if he was aiming at my smoke or something behind me, but those shells are going to miss. I think he might have been firing at my smoke, but he wasn't using the spotter plane, which definitely makes it a lot easier to do something like that. Now I'm moving up into B, or near B, because the Edinburgh's smokescreen probably doesn't have very much longer, and there he is. Now I have the armor piercing loaded, and I send it out, and even though he's angled, 5,000 damage, just because the shell velocity is so great you get really good penetration. And I thought he was dead there, but it looks like it's going to take another salvo to finish him off. But the armor is so thin, and the penetration is so good, that it doesn't really... I don't have to bother switching to high explosive, even though he's angled. And finally, last but not least, there's an Ognivoy being spotted by the carrier's planes, and he's in range of me. Now I'm spotting him regardless, and is waiting for the turrets to get around. The turrets are very slow compared to other ships, so I would recommend taking expert marksman on this. But right in time as the rear turrets get around, there we go, he's dead. Now you'll notice we were actually losing for the majority of that game. However, just having a ship advantage and being able to put it to use we were able to win the game without even needing any of the caps or the points advantage. Taking a look now at the post-battle results screen, you can see that since this is a premium ship and because I was running premium time, I earned 880,000 credits, 10,000 experience, and 500 free experience. I also earned the Honorable Achievement of First Blood and the Heroic Achievements of Confederate, Kraken Unleashed, and High Caliber. All in all, I ended up doing 237,000 damage, and I got 5 kills. Moving on now to the team lists. As you can see, of course, I topped the team, and I also pulled in a staggering 3,200 base experience. Definitely a very good result. Now the detailed report. You'll see that I almost got a Witherer. I earned 54,000 damage, just short of the 60,000 damage acquired. But when you take a look at the damage done by the high explosive shells, you'll understand why. I did 154,000 damage with the high explosive alone. And this is something that you'll see quite commonly when you add IFHE to your captain. Your fire damage will drop, but your raw alpha damage will go up tremendously, because more and more of your shells are actually doing damage instead of shattering. Looking at the ships in particular that I damaged, there are a lot of ships that I damaged quite extensively but didn't end up getting the kill, and then there are some ships that I only did a little bit of damage to, but got the kill nonetheless. So you can see across the top, and I'll scroll over as well, a lot of damage just spread out to almost every member of the enemy team. Finally, credits and XP. Again, I was running premium at the time, but even without it, I would have raked in a solid amount of money. As it was, I got over 750,000 credits, and I also raked in 12,000 commander XP, because it's a premium, ship XP doesn't really matter unless you plan on converting it. Now with a result like this, you can start to see why Wargaming decided to make the changes that they did to smokescreens. And if you're still not convinced that this change was for the better, I think I have something that'll eliminate all doubt. Yes, the second game today is going to be in the Minotaur, the Tier 10 British light cruiser. Cruiser considered by many to be very, very strong, and myself included, but only if the person sailing it knows what they're doing. The range is pretty short, the shell arcs are very high and floaty, and the armor is basically not even there. However, the guns reload in 2.8 seconds, and you have 10 of them, and they fire armor piercing, which will absolutely shred anyone who shows you their side. Now, I'm starting this replay a fair bit into the match, and the reason for that is because, well, as I just mentioned, the range isn't great. It's only 15.8 kilometers, and good luck hitting anything at that range in the first place. And since all the enemy team is content with just sitting in the back and hiding behind islands, well, nothing really happened for the first 5 minutes. I did about 5,000 damage to the Izumo in that short window of time, but that's about it. So I decide that I'm going to be a little more adventurous and actually push up into the cap. Sorry about my phone, by the way. And this HSF Harakazi, High School Fleet premium ship, pops up, so I decide to smoke up and start shooting at him. Of course, at close range, you can absolutely shred destroyers. And this game that was off to a slow start will very, very quickly turn into quite the exciting match. Now the Harakazi is pushing in towards me, but he had launched torpedoes into the gearing smokescreen, and the gearing eats a torpedo and dies. And it's at about the same time that an enemy Kurfürst kills our Tirpitz, who was spotting the Harakazi. And suddenly it's not looking too great. We're down 4 ships, the enemy team hasn't lost anything, and all we really have to show for it is the 2 center caps, both of which are being contested, so we aren't even getting points from that. I pop my hydroacoustic search because it has a range for spotting ships of 4.9 kilometers, and I'm just hoping at this point that the Harakazi will stray within the range, and he does, and that is definitely not a mistake he'll be making again. All it took was 1 salvo since he was showing his broadside, And since this is actually semi-armor piercing, it detonates very, very quickly, even in lightly armored ships. So there's 1 kill for our team. However, our team is down 5 ships at this point. The gearing pops up, and I say, alright, let's focus on him. And the gearing is an even wider ship, so the armor piercing has an even better chance of penetrating and not over-penetrating. And there he goes. As you can see, not a single overpen. 2 bounces, however, that's a little unfortunate, but still. As you can see, the semi-armor piercing really showing its worth in that situation. So I've done 30,000 damage, mainly to enemy destroyers, which is a great way to farm experience. You just shoot at the destroyers because the game rewards people who focus the most important targets. And I use that map trick because there's a Shima somewhere northwest of me, and I want to see if he's in a smokescreen or not. So while I'm out looking for the Shimakaze, I think I'll take some time to talk about the recent smoke changes, because of course that's the topic of this video. Now, if you've played in the last 2 seasons of Ranked, you'll know how boring games can get when both teams just rush into a cap, smoke up, and hide for 20 minutes. And that's one reason why I kind of like this change. It gives destroyers a possibility to spot stuff that's hiding in smoke, whereas before that they couldn't do that. On the flip side, what good is a smokescreen if you can't use it to protect your team? It used to be that a well-placed smokescreen could protect a team and fend off an enemy push, and possibly even win them the battle. Now, however, if you want to stop a push, a smokescreen isn't really effective because either your battleships are dealing damage or protecting their own health, which doesn't make for very dynamic or engaging gameplay. Now keep in mind that I'm talking about battleships because destroyers and cruisers aren't too badly affected by this change, as long as they stay at a slightly longer range. For example, with the Fletcher you'll now have to stay at 2.7 kilometers instead of 2, the Minotaur at 5.4 kilometers, and the Kutuzov at 7.7, which is a little bit more, but it's understandable. However, the Missouri, a battleship, will now get spotted in smoke at 15.6 kilometers, which is crazy. I mean, maybe it should just go up to its normal surface spotting of 12.2, I don't know, but it just seems excessive. I mean, it looks like Wargaming's way of reducing the number of battleship players is to make battleships more vulnerable. And I understand that they need to make battleships less popular, but I don't think this is the way to do it. Because in doing so, they're removing so much teamwork from the game, and so much of the tactics that go into winning a battle. I know lots of other YouTubers are complaining that the game is becoming idiot-proof, and I could go on for examples of that. But making it so that it doesn't matter whether a battleship gets support or not, making it survival independent of that, just doesn't make sense to me. Hopefully Wargaming will change this sometime in the future. So back to the game, and I'm pushing into the center now because our team is pushing away. Our team is all retreating, they're on the sea line, and letting the enemy team have pretty much complete control of the center. Now, there was a Minotaur pulling up here, and I want to be able to open up on him before he finishes capping. And there he is, and just in time I managed to get a reset, and the enemy team will not be taking the center. Now the Minotaur shows his side, and replay bug here. It's showing my perspective from the back turrets, but anyway. Yeah, the Minotaur showing his side, not a great move. Even if you want to get torpedoes away, because I just popped my hydro and avoid the torpedoes, and he's dead. Just in that brief little encounter I did over 50,000 damage, which is a testament to the Minotaur's amazing healing ability, that he was able to heal that much. He was able to heal a lot of that damage so quickly, but also to the DPM, because that engagement lasted barely even a minute. Now, I am holding off the center. Not that it's getting capped or anything by the enemy team, but it's just good to be in a defensive position. And you'll notice that I'm not in my own smokescreen, I'm in the enemy Minotaur's smokescreen. So that's great because it means I'll be able to hang out here for a lot longer than I normally would, just with one smokescreen. Now I have 2 smoke screen durations worth to hide out in. There's a curve first over there at 14.5 kilometers, and he's showing his side, and you'll see that even at range, the Minotaur is completely deadly with its armor piercing. He's pouring in salvo after salvo, and he is completely helpless because, again, I'm not spotted, and even with the smoke changes, I wouldn't really be spotted either because there's nothing within 5.5 kilometers. Now the Kerr first decides that he has to move out, and here he makes the mistake of showing his broadside to our battleships who are up there. As I pop my own smoke screen to restart the timer, and he's not going to last very long, showing broadside to Yamato. Here come the shells, and he's dead. And Yamato there in chat actually bragging about having done 200,000 damage, which is a pretty good result for Yamato. Now I'm going to open up on this Turpitz here, and you'll notice that he just ate a torpedo from the Kagero. So I'm predicting that that caused a flood, and that he's now repairing. And so my torpedoes, if I land with a flood, I should be able to cause a lot of flooding damage while his repair is down. Got a few salvos off at the room, and at this point I'm not quite sure if my torpedoes are going to land on the Turpitz, so I open up on him anyway. I earn my Confederate, as it costs 150,000 damage. And 2 torpedoes on the Turpitz, he's going to flood to death. No point shooting at him anymore. The Kagero with torpedoes finishes off the room, and it's time to start shooting up this Montana. Turpitz floods to death. And even this Montana, as close as he is, would not be spotting me, even with the smoke changes, which is fantastic for me. And another thing that's great is that he's showing his side. As I said in my Neptune commentary, anything that shows their side to you is pretty much dead because your armor piercing is going to shred them. And you'll see there he was at 30-something thousand health when he came around the island, and in less than the duration of a single smokescreen charge, he's now dead. And I have 4 kills, which is always nice. Now my smokescreen is about to run out. Luckily, I run enough commander skills that the reload on the smokescreen is pretty short, and I'll be able to pop it again in another 20 seconds. I do have some torpedoes away. Those weren't aimed at the Izumo, they were just aimed down that gap, because I knew the Izumo was, well, I guess they were aimed, but they weren't targeted. And the Ruin says, can't wait for the smoke changes, and I just tell him, you have to stop showing your side. Because really the obvious and simple counter to British cruisers is just angling your armor. The shells are light and they're small, so all you have to do is just angle your armor and everything will bounce or shatter. Now the Izumo, because my torpedoes weren't aimed specifically at him, he manages to dodge them. However, the Kagero, who's doing a great job of flanking, is going to have something else to say about that, as he lands 2 torpedoes on the Izumo. And this is the thing when you angle against a Minotaur. Look at how little damage I'm doing. He's actually healing up faster than I can damage him. And it's only when I adjust my aim and he starts showing a bit more broadside that I'm actually able to start getting penetrations, and I finish him off. And that's actually my Kraken Unleashed. Now, there's another Ruin who's popping up, and I'm at 231,000 damage at this point. And this Ruin is showing his side, and he's going to regret that as well. There's 7,000 damage, there's 6,000 damage with the Citadel. And again, all you had to do is angle away or get range where the armor piercing loses penetration. But for some reason, people keep pushing into British cruisers, and then they complain that they're overpowered. So there's my 6th kill at 250,000 damage. And at this point, the game is pretty much won. We're capping, or we have control of the central zone, we're capping the intermediate zone, but we aren't capping the outer zone, and that tells me that the Shimakaze is nearby, because he's blocking our progress on the outer zone. And there he is, he just popped up on the minimap. And I'm using my torpedo assist indicator to see where he's going. And when he starts turning around, I slow down so that I'm able to start getting shots off at him. I want to use my torpedoes, but I look at the minimap and see Intago, and I wouldn't want to risk hitting him and ruining this game. And Shimakaze is trying to smoke up, he's trying to evade, but there's just too many shells, he's completely helpless against it, and he goes down. And now our comeback is complete. So again, let's have a look at the post-battle results screen. As you can see, again running premium time, I earned 1 million credits, 10,000 experience, another 500 free experience, as well as Confederate, Kraken, and High Caliber, just like last game, but no First Blood, unfortunately. I, however, did rack up 255,000 damage and 7 kills, which is definitely very, very impressive. I also hit 10 citadels, which I believe might have been one of my tasks, as you can see there. At the team list, of course, I topped the team, and the Yamato, who did pretty well, who was bragging about his 200k, second on the team, not too bad. But 3,500 base experience, definitely something to be proud of there. Now the detailed report, you'll see a lot of damage, and it's pretty much exclusively from my armor piercing. Of course, a little bit of damage from the torpedoes and the floods that I landed on that Tirpitz. And you'll see 1,178 shells fired. And that just goes to show how fast the reload is and how vicious this ship can be if you manage to get in close. Because it's just a relentless, non-stop pounding of shells. Now the credits and XP, again, tier 10s are pretty expensive to run, and this isn't premium, but I still managed to pull in 800,000 credits as a profit, which is definitely very, very good. And 13,000 Commander XP, also quite respectable. So that's been my commentary on basically smokescreens and abusing smokescreens. Both of these replays, you might have been able to do a lot of the same stuff with the new smoke changes. I just wanted to get this video out there in case it was obsolete. Now, if you liked the video, then be sure to hit the like button before you leave. If you have any criticisms or feedback or anything, then be sure to leave those in the comment section down below. If you want more videos like this, you can check out my channel and subscribe so you know when I upload next. Anyway, I've been Ethan7878. Thank you for watching.